Doksaje
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati
Save Pumsam Paro Dharmo
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharma
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati
Save Pumsam Paro Dharmo
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharma
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati Sarvaikum Samparo Dharma
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharmo
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharmo
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharmo Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati. Anyone else?
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharmo
Sarvaikum Samparo Dharmo
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Yato Bhaktira Doksaje
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Ahaitukya Pratihata
Yayatma Suprasidati
Yayatma Suprasidati. Sa, that, by, certainly, Pumsam, for mankind, Para, sublime, Dharma, occupation, Yata, by which, Bhakti, devotional service, Adoksaje, unto the transcendence, Ahaituki, causeless, Apratihata, unbroken, Yaya, by which, Atma, the self, Suprasidati, completely satisfied. Translation. The supreme occupation, Dharma, for all humanity is that by which men can attain the loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Text 6. Would you like to say it? Some of us are memorizing verses, and so I don't have this memorized. Anybody have it memorized? Anybody want to take the time? Purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this statement, Sri Sutta Goswami answers the first question of the sages of Naimisharanya. The sages asked him to summarize the whole range of revealed scriptures and present the most essential part so that fallen people or the people in general might easily take it up. The Vedas prescribe two different types of occupations for the human being. One is called the pravritti marg, or the path of sense enjoyment, and the other is called the nivritti marg, or the path of renunciation. The path of enjoyment is inferior, and the path of sacrifice for the supreme cause is superior. The material existence of the living being is a diseased condition of actual life. Actual life is spiritual existence or Brahma Bhuta existence, where life is eternal, blissful, and full of knowledge. Material existence is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. There is no happiness at all. There is just the futile attempt to get rid of the miseries, and temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. Therefore, the path of progressive material enjoyment, which is temporary, miserable, and illusory, is inferior. But devotional service to the Supreme Lord, which leads one to eternal, blissful, and all-cognizant life, is called the superior quality of occupation. This is sometimes polluted when mixed with the inferior quality. For example, adoption of devotional service for material gain is certainly an obstruction to the progressive path of renunciation. Renunciation or abnegation for ultimate good is certainly a better occupation than enjoyment in the disease condition of life. Oh, half time. Such enjoyment only aggravates the symptoms of disease and increases its duration. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord must be pure in quality, without the least desire for material enjoyment. One should see how mixed I am. There's popping up basketball halftime, and so I'm trying to enjoy that a little bit at the same time of trying to do devotional service.
Yeah.
It's a halftime update. The Gators are playing. So check that later. But such enjoyment only aggravates the symptoms of disease and increases its duration. Therefore, devotional service to the Lord must be pure in quality, without the least desire for material enjoyment. One should therefore accept the superior quality of occupation in the form of the devotional service of the Lord, without any tinge of unnecessary desire, fruitive action, and philosophical speculation. This alone can lead one to perpetual solace in his service. We have purposely denoted dharma as occupation because the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna is the central pivot of living beings, and he is the all-attractive living entity or eternal form. Amongst all other living beings or eternal forms, each and every living being has his eternal form in the spiritual existence. And Krishna is the eternal attraction for all of them. Krishna is the complete whole, and everything else is his part and parcel. The relation is one of the servant and the served. It is transcendental, it is completely distinct from our experience in material existence. The relation of servant and the served is the most congenial form of intimacy. One can realize it as devotional service progresses. Everyone should engage himself in that transcendental loving service of the Lord, even in the present conditional state of material existence. That will gradually give one the clue to actual life and please him to complete satisfaction. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gnanjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Vinaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Puchani Nirvishita Sunyavadi Prachati Destar. Okay. So here we are. Rukmini online, Danielle and George, Payal, Zain. Online, in person we have Dominique and Leah and Gaetano and Ann and Brielle and Rebecca, Ramachandra and Ryan. Also the kids we saw earlier with the kids time. We have Lakshman and Siddhanta and Subal and Nalini, Kanta, and I'm Patrick. I'm here giving a class, and its title is Uncovering Our Original Consciousness. I have some notes. So, thank you all for being here. It's special that you came. And all right, so we hear this phrase: Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. A very powerful phrase, very powerful thing. Prabhupada says this: not an artificial imposition on the mind. So what does that mean? So that's so if it's not artificial, that means that it's natural. It's a natural state of the mind. And so so in Sattva Tov, we're all here taking some Sattva Tov. And so in Sattva Tov, we take a look at masks and beliefs about ourselves. And so it's clear, and we get an idea, yeah, we're not the beliefs. That's not the truth about myself. Like these beliefs I picked up from my parents or from my childhood, my teachers or whatever, we come to understand, we come to realize that's not who I am. That's not the truth about myself. And so the mask that we put up and we wear, we realize that's not really authentic for me. That's not who I am. That's the artificial. That's an artificial, something has been imposed on me artificially, or I've done myself. I put that on myself. So we come to some realization about what's not true, what's false, and so it's very clear. Yeah, we've been conditioned from childhood, just in this lifetime. From childhood, we're conditioned, social conditioning, and how to think and act and play and deal with people and communicate. We're affected by material conditioning, and there's this upadi. Upadi means material identification, false designation. So we pick up all these upadis. We get these material designations, and they could be something, from, as we look at the Sattva Tov environment, like I'm not lovable, I'm not worthy, or it could be, designation that is a little bit harder to realize that we're not, like I'm a white man, I'm American, or I'm a man. So those are upadis. So we realize we can come to, that's one of the first lessons that Prabhupada gives. You're not the body. You're not the body. You're not these false designations. In the first day of the Sattva Tov seminar, we've all heard, now I'm a Japanese, I'm driving a Toyota. Now I'm Japanese, I'm driving a Ford. Now I'm American, right? So that's, so it's clear that we're not these false designations. And so what is the truth? And so there must be some, so we see we have some conditioned consciousness, conditioned state of being. So what is the unconditioned state of being? We have, if it's not, we have these things that have been artificially imposed. What's the natural condition of the mind and the intelligence and the soul? And so really, so there's a group of us that are taking part in the formal initiation ceremony in August of this year. So it's like, what are we initiating into? And all of us are in the process of initiation, whether the initiation ceremony has happened before or is about to happen. The formal ceremony, the initiation process is happening as soon as we encounter the pure devotee and his books and his teachings. Our initiation process has started. So what are we initiating into? What are we getting into? And so Prabhupada's saying, it's not that we're joining. It's really, we're talking about joining the movement. We're not really joining. It's really coming back home. It's coming back, the phrase back to home, back to Godhead. So that's the truth. That's where we want to go. That's home. So what's home? Because there's Godhead, home, as a geography, a place that we can go to. There's also the consciousness of being God consciousness. If we're in fully God consciousness, then we are in Godhead, whether we're in Gainesville or Lachua or wherever we are. And we are in Godhead. So how do we get back home? So it's really a process of uncovering and realizing our natural, original consciousness. So what's our original state of mind, state of consciousness? And so we learn, Prabhupada gives us that original consciousness, Satchidananda, eternally full of knowledge and bliss. That's our original condition, unconditioned state. So, and it can kind of seem like, okay, so we got all this conditioning from material life, material conditioning, and then we're trying to unravel that. We're trying to undo all of that, and now, so the natural state of the soul. Why do we need to learn anything? Shouldn't it just like happen naturally? Like, shouldn't we just? Why do we need to learn the mantra, learn anything? Shouldn't it just? It should be, if we know it already, if we're full of knowledge, then how do we get there? So, and Prabhupada addresses in the purport. He says that this material conditioned state of life is actually a diseased condition. So we're sick, we're diseased, we're paralyzed, we're injured, we're damaged, we're broken, we're not functioning properly, we're not working the right way, we're not working our original mode of operation. And I found this interesting, this diseased condition of life. We're in this diseased condition of life that whenever we're identifying with these false designations, these material designations, these upadis, these masks, these self-limiting beliefs, then we are in a diseased condition of life. And basically, so how many of us have had the experience of having that feeling about ourselves? I'm broken. Something's wrong with me. I'm defective. Something's not working. What's wrong with me? I feel, I hate myself. What are those self-defeating beliefs? It's like, where's the truth in that? There's truth. There's truth in that. As much as we're identifying with the material mask and the false designation, then we are broken. We are not lovable. We're just dead matter. What's lovable about a lump of matter? Bile and stool and blood and pus. What's lovable about that? It's not. So it's true that whenever we're identifying with the material energy, then we are broken. We're not working. Something is wrong. There is something wrong. And so that's what Prabhupada's coming to give us, how to fix it. He's giving us the medicine. So if someone's paralyzed, because that's basically what we are. There's a whole function, there's a whole range of spiritual life and natural loving exchanges with God and God's devotees, and that's not available to us. We can't do it as whenever we're absorbed and attached to the material energy. We can't do it. We're paralyzed. We're broken. It's not working. So imagine someone's paralyzed. They get into a car accident and they can't move their legs or whatever. But then they are able to be healed, and they have to learn to walk again. They have to learn to talk again. Maybe you've heard it. People have to learn to talk again, learn to walk again. So that's where we are. We're paralyzed. We're broken. It's not working. We can't function properly. And here we are. Prabhupada's come, and he's the doctor, he's the physician. He's giving us the medicine. He's giving us the process to learn to walk again, to learn to talk again, right? Because talking and walking, those are a natural part of, a child's going to learn to talk and walk. I mean, the extreme examples maybe with like abuse or something like this, but a child is naturally going to learn to walk and talk. It's a natural part of existence as a human, being a human. So we're naturally know how to do devotional service. It's within us. It's the natural state of the mind. Still, we need to learn to walk again. We have to get up on the stroller or whatever, the walker, and get on and go on the treadmill, and the doctors are there, and just today, just do a few steps and then rest, and then the next day we can do more, and so that's the process that we're in. It's like, yes, it's a natural state to be the soul, to be walking and talking and dancing and singing, but if we're in a paralyzed place, it's going to take some time, and there needs to be a process to uncover that, to uncover those natural abilities that are in us, in the natural state of being, for it to come out and to flourish. It's going to need to be a process, and we're going to need to do some learning, some reconditioning, some relearning. So let's look at the purple. So there's some things. Prabhupada translates dharma as occupation. I really like that. So there's Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan Dharma means is our eternal dharma. There's many different dharmas. We all have different kind of dharmas. And there's dharmas, to be a householder, to provide for family, or take care of your children. There's so many dharmas that people may have according to psychophysical nature and like that. But there's one eternal dharma, and then that's Sanatan Dharma, which is this bhakti yoga. This bhakti yoga, this Krishna consciousness, loving devotional service to God is the Sanatan Dharma. And so dharma sometimes can be translated to religion, and but I think that's true. And at the same time, we need to understand that what we think of as religion is not true. It's part of that material conditioning, that what we think of as religion. I think maybe it's Prabhupada somewhere, that they asked, like, oh, there's another religion, or is Krishna consciousness a different religion than Christianity, or something like this? And Prabhupada said, there's no other religion. There's no other religion. There's only one religion. There's only one true religion. That's Sanatan Dharma, loving devotional service to God. And so that comes in many different ways, different languages, according to time, place, and circumstance. It's different, but really there's just, for the human being, for the spiritual being, there's only one Dharma, one Sanatan Dharma, one eternal Dharma that's always true and valid, regardless of time, place, and circumstance. Because we have many Dharmas that are only valid according to, well, this lifetime, this body, this part of your life, this stage of your life, this is your Dharma. But there's only one Dharma that's eternally always valid. That's the Sanatan Dharma. So purposely, just close it. Well, we have purposely denoted dharma as occupation, because the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. A living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. So I really like this because occupation, right? Job, basically, can be occupation. It could be considered job. Job has a bad, taste. Nobody wants to work a job, but think about just job is just what you do. And that's what dharma is. It's like, who am I? What do I do? Sugar, the dharma of sugar is to be sweet. That's who sugar is. The dharma of fire is to be hot. That's who fire is. So we're spirit, soul, we're servants of God. So our dharma is to serve. And so think about a real simple person that is they just have a job, and that's just what they do. They're just a plumber, and that's who they are, and that's what they do. They go to work and they plumb. They plum. What do you say? They do plumbing. They plumb. They just plumb, and they plumb, and they plumb, and they plumb. And that's what they are. That's all they do. They might work overtime, 60 hours a week, whatever like that. So that's how we need to be with Krishna consciousness. Just be simple. This is my job. This is what I do. This is who I am. This is what I do. I get up, I clock in. I clock in and I do my service because this is my sustenance. So we work an occupation, we have an occupation, we have a job for sustenance, for in material life at least. We have a job to provide sustenance for ourselves. We work, you work, and you trade, whatever. Even old ancient times, you work and you barter or whatever. You grow food and then you eat the food or you barter the food. We work to sustain ourselves. So a living being's sustenance of existence is to coordinate his activities with the eternal relation of Supreme Lord Krishna. This is how we sustain ourselves. This is how we get nourishment. This is how we get what we need. This is how we earn a living in Krishna consciousness. This is how we survive. This is how we provide our sustenance and our maintenance is through devotional service, loving devotional service. In the verse is the supreme occupation is that by which men can attain the loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. That is how we survive. That's how we get sustenance. I really like that. The translation and this idea of the occupation, the Sanatana Dharma, is the eternal occupation of the soul. So this is our natural state. This is our natural job, our natural service is to attain for loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord. So we talk Pravritti Marg and Nivritti Marg. We've heard Anartha Nivritti. So anarthas are the unwanted things in our heart. Weeds in Sattva language. So the weeds in the garden of the heart. Anartha Nivritti is pulling the weeds. So we can see that nivritti, renunciation. So giving up. So we're giving up those weeds. We're giving up the anarthas. We're renouncing the anarthas. Anartha nivritti means we're giving them up, those unwanted things in the heart, because, and we have to give them up because we want to keep them. We're getting some payoff, right? Grunges and payoff. So the grungy things in our hearts, we're getting some payoff from them, some material payoff. And the Anartha nivritti means to give those up, to renounce them. So this nivritti marg is the path of renunciation. Pravritti marg is the path of sense enjoyment. So, so uncovering the original consciousness. So it's a process, and that's the process that we're in taking to devotional service, is trying to uncover that natural consciousness, the Satchidananda, the Sanatana Dharma, get to our original state of being, our original occupation, and giving up all the false designations, all the unwanted, the grungy things in our heart, and the coming back to our original place. Let's see where Prabhupada said that. Disease condition. The material existence of this living being is a disease condition of life. So, as much as we're identifying materially these upadis, material designations, then we're in a disease condition of life. So we're not natural. The disease, there's an original healthy state of being. There's original intact, full sense of being, sense of consciousness that we're not accessing if we're in material life. So our our job is to uncover that original consciousness through this process of bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness, and the path of renunciation, renouncing this material, enjoying spirit and material unwanted things in the heart. And Prabhupada gives us 4 main things, the core 4, like Danielle says. So to regulate no illicit sex, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, and to chant at least 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra each day. And then we're getting the medicine. Then we're on the path to healing. We're learning to walk. We're learning to talk again. Then we're on the right path to uncover our original consciousness. Hare Krishna, thank you very much. Comments or questions or?
Were humans always covered up, or is it just a Kali Yuga cover?
Beings, so Kali Yuga. Yeah, so in the Kali Yuga, my understanding, my understanding is that even so there's different yugas. So we're in Kali Yuga. There's Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dvarpa Yuga, and Kali Yuga. And Kali Yuga is the most degraded of the 4 yugas, and cycles. And all 4 yugas represent one cycle, and it's the most degraded. So in the Satya Yuga, which is the most enlightened, so definitely people lived longer and had much better facilities, intelligence, and memory, and clear thinking, right, and more pure, more pious, really elevated, spiritually. And at the same time, it's still the material world, So, so for those living beings in the Satya Yuga, in the material world, they're still materially conditioned. That's my understanding. So I would think, I would imagine. So there's so there is the vast majority of living entities never come to the material world. So the vast majority of living entities are in their original state, their original consciousness. And it's like a small percentage. I don't know the percentage. But this material world is actually quite small. Was it?
I've heard 10, 25.
Right. So I think the material world is like 1/4. I mean, of course, it's like infinite in expanding, but still, you can have some idea that the material world makes up like 1/4 of the 1/4 of the whole existence. So the spiritual world, most everything is in the spiritual realm. The majority of living entities and space in the universe is in the spiritual world, in the original consciousness. Anybody have a remark to that or response to that? Giving my understanding or my realization, but it's probably incomplete. Is that?
Yeah, I was trying to process like when you're reading the verse, like we're in the worst part of it because we're the worst age, but like I was just like wondering what it was like if it wasn't this age, like how bad was the covering or was there much of it? Like I know about what you were saying, but I don't really know the details of it. So I was like thinking about like in the original humans, is it just always a human condition thing to have this to not be able to access that truth, that unconditioned devotional personality. Like, is it that if we're born with it? I mean, we're the original people
Right.
born with it, or was it just immediately like a thing they have to struggle with? I don't know.
Like if they're humans, if they're humans that, without the material conditioning, just in their original state, without
just we're devotional servants without having to struggle and get all these layers off. And
right.
I know we do, but I didn't know all the way back. I don't have context of like the beginning.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, we have the Prabhupada's Shaktivation avatar, so he's descending into the material world, but he's not touched by the material world, material conditioning. It's the lotus example. The lotus flower is not touched by the muck and the mud. It grows out of it, but is not touched by it. And so we have examples like that. And at the same time, so yeah, like Satya Yuga, the previous, is much more heavenly. They're more, live longer, more enjoyment, and more pious, and better food and better weather, and everything like that. So in one sense, when things are going nicely, then it's not as suitable environment for real self-realization, to get really serious about self-realization than when things are going really bad. In Kali Yuga, things are really bad and people are more desperate for self-realization. So, but my understanding is, as far as if there's a human being, there's a living entity that's taking birth into the material world, and they're going to be subject to the material, the defects of material life. So birth, death, old age, and disease, and the limitations of the material life, illusions, mistakes, cheating, and the disturbances from the mind, disturbances from other living entities, and natural disturbances of the material world. So, but yeah, so there's, and so I'm not clear about human. What is really human? Because in the spiritual world, our spiritual body is that a human form. But it is. But you see, Krishna has a human form. Krishna has a human form that we're made in the image of God. So yeah, there are humans that in the spiritual world that are in their original consciousness that never come into the material existence.
But they're not really humans.
Right, I'm not clear about that.
So there's soul, like a spiritual body.
Spiritual body, not what we think of as humans, because they're like we're this is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So there's humans in the spiritual world, but it's not what we think of as humans. It's not what we know as humans. Like that. I think so. That's good. Okay. Satisfied something. I think George might want. George.
You're muted.
Are you muted, or are we muting you? Or
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Dominic, for clarifying. Haribol, everyone. Patrick, I just wanted to comment. You mentioned the definition of the Dharma as that which cannot be separated from, but you also said that which sustains. Am I correct?
Yeah, that was in the purport. Yeah, sustains
Yeah.
us. Right, that which sustains us.
I really appreciate that definition so much. It's not one of Dharma that I think of often, and I appreciate it because it's like, we live in this world, and it's like sometimes David has mentioned this from Prabhupada. It was shared that, like when we want water, like, and we just say water, you're not gonna get sated or satisfied with that because it's not one and the same. But so it's like the question is like, what sustains me, right? And so often I think of my professional life where everyone's just running after money or after, you know, thinking that like, oh, this if I put my effort and my energy and my sincerity in this endeavor or in this job, or like this is what is going to sustain me. And so thinking of Dharma in that way, thinking of Krishna as my maintainer, as my provider, as my protector. Like it is very empowering because death is coming, you know, and when I look at how I spend my own personal time, you know, when like it's coming near midnight, have I finished my rounds or not? Do I need to read this paper or write this thing or send that email or do all these things? It's like finding it helpful to consider like what will ultimately sustain me, like what is my dharma in the sense of like substance, in the sense of that like beyond what will happen at the time of death. And I'm reminded of that, verse from the Gita where Krishna says, "Dehinosmi yata dehe kaumaram yavanam jara tatha dehantara praptir dirastatra namuyati." He says, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. That's so important to me to understand that as like my dharma is to chant, you know, like what will sustain me is Krishna, is hearing his name, reading about his pastimes. I remember someone had posted on multiple resources for spiritual people how one of their mother or their loved one was very sick at chance in the cancer ward, and she was hoping somebody could go and like chant with her, or you know, and ultimately I couldn't find the room where the lady was. I think, I don't know what had happened, but I couldn't find the right patient room. But I did find the cancer ward, and everyone was coughing like a guttural cough from multiple rooms. Everyone was really nearing their end, and it was not pretty at all. And I was wondering, you know, what all the endeavors, all the paths, you know, we say all the senses are just paths that lead to death, you know. I was wondering like, I wonder what they thought was going to sustain them before coming to this point. I wonder like where we put our energy, where we, you know, where we devote all our time, effort into doing. And I was so enlivened at the same time that this woman's daughter had asked that we go and we help sustain her mother through sound vibration, through that which really really is valuable, really is kind of the bottom line, basically. So I just wanted to share that as like a very inspirational aspect of Dharma that I don't think of often, as far as like sustaining myself, not being constantly hungry, constantly hankering for like empty food or empty, you know. Yeah, so just thank you for sharing that definition of Dharma with me. It's very inspiring.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I really appreciate it myself. It's very special. I thought it was very special in the purport that Dharma, occupation, because Prabhupada translated as occupation. He said the root of the word is the root meaning of the word dharma is that which sustains one's existence. Because we can think about, there's many different dharmas, and so some dharmas, you know, may be to you know, the householder to provide for the family, or you know, to the mother to provide for the children, or the king, you know, to rule in a certain way, and so there's dharmas like that to take care of cows or produce grains and things like that. Could be different kinds of dharmas, so that the dharma sustains one's existence. So if I tend to cows, then that sustains my existence. And then so there's dharma. So, and I appreciate what you're sharing, because we can take a look at what, because there's understanding and having knowledge about something, and then there's realization, and we can see our realization through how we're living and how we're showing up in the world. And so, how are we living? What are we acting like is sustaining us? How are we in our daily actions, in our daily lives? How are we going about getting sustenance? And how are we acting like what's really sustaining us? And Prabhupada says, coordinate his activities with his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thank you. Anybody else? Tyler just joined us.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You spoke about self-limiting beliefs,
Mm-hmm.
and like how we identify and how we are broken, and that there's some truth in it. Like we can hate ourselves when we see our material conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
We can sort of hate it,
Right.
You start to have intelligence, that's not me.
Yeah.
I'm acting that way.
Right.
And it's it's painful.
Mm-hmm.
Different types of pain, but I had a breakthrough a few months ago with self-limiting beliefs, and it was coming to a head where I was feeling constantly like I'm failing. I was judging myself as failing. Every area of my life, I wasn't perfect, so I was failing in every area of my life. And I was really, it was coming to a head where I was really stuck, and I was I know I shouldn't be thinking this. I know I shouldn't have this. So such a harsh self-judgment, labeling a failure. I was just stuck. I was I know, but I'm stuck. And finally, somehow, I made another mistake. So it was I yelled at my kids and then I taught them at the same time, and I just felt terrible. But I kind of collapsed, in the bed, just totally depressed, and cried so hard. And I was actually, I finally just gave it a voice. I hate myself. Which is that's not spiritual, it's not conscious,
Right.
It's not personal growth, you're not, I just was thinking I'm not supposed to feel or think that way. But finally I just gave it a full voice, and I had a huge emotional release, and we got the kids taken care of, and Gaetano sat with me, and I was a lot's coming up, and I was just I'm never gonna change, and why did I have that mom, and it's my fault, and I was just I'm failing. I'm just I just saw myself as just never ever going to get over all the areas that I'm stuck in, whether it's my health, relationships, my life purpose, my spiritual practice, everything was stuck. And I totally expressed it. And it felt like such a relief to just allow that part of me to be expressed.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I didn't even realize it, but I've had a lot of breakthroughs after that. That was a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt it was really cool. Wow, I'm allowed to have that feeling. It doesn't have to suppress that, my bad feelings about myself.
Right.
I let it, express it, even though it doesn't look spiritual or conscious at all.
Right.
And even I felt like a pretender. We talked about pretender this morning as I give class.
Mm.
Sometimes I felt I saw myself, I'd go to spiritual programs and just be people might think I'm like a leader in the community or doing something. Like the book came out and I'm just like back at home, like failing at all areas of my life. But so I'm still like showing up for life. That's something that came up for me, is like just still show up, you know. And I feel like Krishna didn't reveal the realizations until the right time. Like, you know, it was years of feeling stuck in different things. But after finally like breaking down, I have all my life areas have been uplifted, and I feel like strong, and I feel good about myself. I feel more in integrity, and I got support, and I'm just like, I'm gonna keep it going. Like, I want to live like this paradigm of like progress, and you know, I just wanted to share that because I didn't realize like that happened, and then like within a month, like things started to transform.
Right. Yeah.
Not that I'm perfect, really. I can tell you there's room.
When you have breakthroughs that stems from a big breakdown of you, like of you allowing yourself to experience and be authentic with those feelings that aren't spiritual and aren't, you know, positive or uplifting or whatever like that. And so, yeah, I appreciate that. Yes, so authenticity, you know, in spiritual life is so important, that we're not thinking that when we're reading about the pure devotees in those literatures that they're talking about us, or that, you know, the devotees are us. Then we're more, you know, the ones that are trapped in the material miseries and full of illusion. And so it's so important to allow ourselves to have those feelings that aren't spiritual, so that we can have spiritual life. Because otherwise, it's not authentic. It's artificial. Artificial. Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind. So we want to get.
I like when you
what's
said
natural.
that there's some truth in it. When you're like, we are broken. Like,
Yeah,
it's
right.
like, you know, there's truth in not liking our conditioned state.
Right.
When you see it, you're like,
It's not likable. It's not lovable.
yeah, it's not the self, you know.
Yeah, that we're diseased. Yeah. So if we're believing, if we're having these self-limiting beliefs and we're believing them, or they're just happening, and we're in the conditioned state of life, wearing masks and pretending to be this or that, and not being authentic, then we're in the diseased condition of life. We're diseased. And like I said, yeah, I like the analogy of like a paralyzed person. We're in this paralyzed condition. We're not able to resume or to engage in our full range of activities of a spiritual being. We're limited. And that's a frustrating thing. It is a frustrating kind of existence.
Krishna Prashik, I just wanted to share one more thing.
Yes.
It was part of the purport where Prabhupada was saying about the two paths that we can take as human beings, which was, sense gratification, sense enjoyment path, or the austerity path. And I'm not sure where I read this, but it was one of the chapters where this phrase really stuck with me. It said that one who accepts material sense enjoyment is bound by material misery. That really kind of stood out to me when you were saying kind of like the choices that we're doing about, it's almost like a trap, like that image of kind of getting bound up, or like, Maya, like grabbing you by the throat. As soon as I make the choice to accept that material sense enjoyment, it's like I'm instantly kind of bound down by it. So I just wanted to share that came up to me when you were saying that, like our two choices of how we go about it. Because it was very kind of like real, like visceral kind of idea of like what I accept. When I accept enjoyment, I am bound by misery in this kind of temporary, kind of fleeting place that we are at. So I just wanted to share that as kind of like something that came up for me.
Yeah. Also, I appreciate you sharing that. And also in the purport that Prabhupada is mentioning, like what we think of as happiness, we falsely call it happiness. The temporary cessation of misery is falsely called happiness. So that's like we go on a vacation or something. It's like, well, I'll take a week off from all those things that are stressing me out, and I'm suffering, and then I'll be happy. And it's like, well, not really. But it's just I don't have those things in my life. Then I call that happiness when I'm not, when the suffering ceases. But full happiness is positive, so it's not just like a negative. It's like, well, those things that I'm suffering from, they're not present. So now I'm happy. It's like real happiness is a true positive, a true uplifting, in that something positive that we're actually really adding and really experiencing, not just the absence of the negative things. We're having the addition of something really, really true and positive, and that's only available through spiritual life, because the spiritual life is eternally truthful and blissful. So the only way to have real happiness is through it's the only thing that's real. The Satchidananda, the nature of the soul, and relationship with Krishna is the only thing that's actually real and that can actually give any happiness, because it's the only thing that's actually positive. Everything else is negative and suffering. And if we don't have if the negative suffering is absent, we call that happiness. But we're not even aware of or even considering the real positive truth that's available. Okay, Rebecca.
I'm just feeling humbled by the part of the verse that you expounded upon. You talked about the plumber. And like, I don't know, I guess I'm connecting with, I wish that I could be simple like the plumber. Like, and just do my job, like, and just like, but then at the same time, actually really what comes to me is I wish I could be simple like the plumber and just know my job and just know this and just do it.
Right.
Like, that's what I would like to, that's what I'd like to really powerfully connect with, like what just, and in a really simple, and then just go do my job.
Yeah.
Just do it. And not fight it, or I thought it was going to look a lot more, I don't know, opulent than this or something. I thought it was going to be, I thought I was going to have this big, big practice, and I thought I was going to, be this important person. And,
you're craving that simplicity of just knowing who you are, knowing what you do, like so the Dharma, spirit, soul, nature is a servant of God. So that naturally the spirit soul serves God. So I'm a servant, so I serve. I'm a plumber, so I plumb, whatever. So I'm just knowing who you are and knowing what you do. And there's like a simplicity there of like you're craving.
Yeah, and just like a humbleness to just accept my position, like whatever it might be, instead of it trying, like, because I can really see how there was a part of me that was coming from wanting to be important
Uh-huh.
like that, and I had to look like this so that I could be important. You know,
I think it reminds me of what George was sharing, like we were sharing about like sustenance, looking for sustenance. Like you wanted that importance, you wanted to have that sense of importance, and it was to give you life, life sustenance is life giving. What gives us life? What gives us energy? What gives us life? And so like you were looking for how to get your sustenance, and that's what this verse, that translation is so special, that the Sanatana Dharma, loving devotional service to God, this is what's going to give us life. This is what's going to sustain us.
The verse says, such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. So like, you're saying you had other motivations. Yeah, and it's not satisfying if you have another motivation besides. I mean, what you're saying is like confirming the verse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that when we have another motivation, we end up dissatisfied if it's not pure devotional service.
right. If we are endeavoring for that, like I feel like I need to do that. Like many of us have ulterior motives.
We want
Like
results or something.
Yeah, I think most people.
Whatever we do.
That's what they do. That's what they do. Yeah, and if I wasn't following this path, I might just continue to like go about what I'm doing and not even question that. I'm just like, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I didn't mention so much about that part of the verse. my realization of where I'm at. But so unmotivated and uninterrupted, just completely satisfy the self. So to get the full sustenance, to get the full life that we want, this devotional service, this our job, our occupation needs to be performed without motivation and uninterrupted. And Prabhupada gives us what it means to be unmotivated is to the different paths. That's where he mentions the different paths. Pravritti Marg, path of sense enjoyment, Nivritti Marg, the path of renunciation. And those can be mixed. So the idea is to not have that mixed motivation of sense enjoyment, because we won't get the full taste. We won't get the full, like Prabhupada says, that could look like spiritual devotional service is like milk, and then material enjoyment is water. And so if you mix them together, we don't get the taste. We get watered down milk. You really can't enjoy either one, because if you mix milk and water together, you don't taste the water doesn't taste so good, and the milk is watered down, so you're not getting the full water. You can't enjoy the water because it's got milk in it. So this mixed devotional service, you're not really going to enjoy the material world anyway. And then, but if you're not going to be able to fool yourself into thinking you're enjoying it if you're taking the spiritual life, because you're going to have too much realization that this is not the truth. It's temporary. So, because the best way to really enjoy, the only way to really enjoy material life is to be a complete illusion that it is possible to enjoy, to think you're enjoying. It's completely unmotivating. So, if you, yeah.
Share related. So for the first couple of years.
Can you hear online? Can people hear when others are sharing?
Yes, we can hear very well. At least I can.
Yeah, I can hear.
So for the first couple of years of my trying this process out, getting myself to the process, I was getting results from it, but I didn't.
Okay, now I can't hear anymore.
You can't hear me anymore?
Yeah, same.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Yeah, so I was giving myself to this process, and I was noticing my I was purifying myself, and I wasn't aware of it, but that's what was happening. My senses were becoming purified, and my mind, and just energetically. And I found myself wanting to reject it, almost like appalled by. I couldn't believe, like, well, I can't enjoy things anymore. I can't enjoy the things that I used to enjoy anymore. I can't enjoy anymore because of this. I'm like, like, what am I doing? I'm like sabotaging everything. Yeah, so that I could relate to that, that experience, and and then but I was coming from a materialistic consciousness, materialistic paradigm, and I was thinking about earlier when you shared about like children, learning to talk and walk, and they're seeing others, so they naturally they have curiosity, they want to learn, and they want to mimic what they see around them. And then whatever we're taught as far as our beliefs of like who we are, we're human beings, and we go after jobs, and then we get a house, and then a car, and then it's like, then you get a wife, and you have kids, and a boat, and a dog, and it's like the whole story, like all these that's promoted. It's like everybody, that's who we are, that's what we do. And then coming into contact with Srila Prabhupada coming and sharing a completely different paradigm of like what life is, who we are. It's like, it's so like, just like, for me, it was just, it was just like, wow, that's pretty crazy. So yeah, I kind of feel like I'm not this body. I've had experiences with drugs and stuff, leaving my body, and so I can relate to that. But who am I? Like, I don't know. Like, there's different paths that say different things. So yeah, but giving myself to this process, and like the purification process of like awakening my natural state, like from my understanding, is according to this philosophy, that we can't really we can't make good judgment unless we have purified senses, about like, we can't even receive real knowledge, transcendental knowledge, unless we purify ourselves. So that's a whole process too, is to go through the purifying process. And then I noticed, like, I not only purify, but maybe it was almost like my senses, like I became more sensitive energetically, and I'm still more sensitive because I'm doing this practice, like to smells and sounds and energy, and I'm seeing at like, this is like, okay, now I can like make use discernment and make decisions. We have an injured spirit body out there, body, spirit, and body that's injured. Yeah, so through this process, like of uncovering my natural state, not that I'm there at all, but at least I don't feel like I am. But as I become more sensitive, and as I become more what I call purified, that I can use my discernment to make decisions on like what's going to be favorable for continuing my advancement in Krishna consciousness, and what's not going to be favorable. Yeah, and I've seen the results of that, and it's so I'm feeling, yeah, as far as like, Srila Prabhupada giving us, this process is like, it's a gift that an individual could give to themselves to try out and see the direct results. And I appreciate that so much about it. It's really about like really doing an experiment on yourself and in your life, and seeing the results of that. And it's like, once you like have these like, undeniable results, then it's just kind of like, well, maybe more paradigms around the philosophy are true. At least that's been my process. Because most of it seemed like pretty kind of wild for me. But I've just gotten results from just the chanting the Maha Mantra, that it's given me more like faith that, hey, maybe Srila Prabhupada, is, maybe he knows what he's talking about or something. It's like maybe, he's way more knowledgeable about, everything more than I feel like I've ever been educated on anything in this material world personally. But so I guess I wanted to share kind of what was happening with me, and I appreciate your class, and taking a look at like uncovering our original consciousness and our dharma too, like seeing, like I was thinking about dharma as far as my psychophysical nature, as like I have the tendency to, I'm a very tactile person. I like making things. I got into construction because I was using my hands, and I like building and putting things together and like sculpting and doing things. But I feel like it wasn't fully like what my real service is, which I feel like is expressing Krishna consciousness and sharing Krishna consciousness with my art more than building things. I mean, maybe someday I might build a temple or something like that, and that would be a wonderful service. But as far as right now, I feel like that's, as far as I'm thinking of dharma in that sense for myself, and I haven't really given myself fully to that. I've been feeling like, just kind of my process of, I'm not, the self-defeating beliefs I feel like have been, just kind of in the way of like, me like fully trusting that, I'm just a puppet. It's not, I don't need to come with ideas. I don't need to know what I'm going to make next. I don't need to know any of that. I just got to simply give myself to the process of, chanting and hearing and association. And it'll all come. And that's how it's come so far, like with my, the sculptures that I have made, expressing Bhakti Yoga and Krishna consciousness. I never felt at all like it was me like coming up with anything. And so I'm really appreciating that too, because I don't, it feels like less, it just feels, it feels easy and like more like just a surrendered position. Like, okay, where do you want me to bring this statue, Krishna? Srila Prabhupada, what can I make next? How can I, how can I be in service? So I'm appreciating like being connected to that dharma with my Krishna consciousness at this point in my practice. And yeah.
Oh yeah, like thank you for sharing. I get really hearing like your process of purifying yourself and your senses and deepening your trust and faith in the process, and knowledge, you're gaining knowledge. Whenever you were sharing about material activities, like not being able to enjoy them anymore and be like, what's happening here? I can't enjoy what I used to enjoy. And I wonder, and my sense is like, if that's happening, like you're noticing the like, because Krishna consciousness is not an artificial imposition on the mind, it's the original state. So it's like kind of seeing those things that I used to enjoy, like seeing how they're artificial they are, how temporary they are, not natural, to the soul. I think I had that experience also. I wonder
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
seeing it.
I just mean directly not enjoyable. Yeah, where it's like almost disturbing, or can be disturbing.
Yeah.
Where it used to be like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Right. As you purify yourself, it's not pleasurable, it's disturbing. It's
Yeah.
actually.
yeah, it's interesting how it just, for me, it's changed. Like
Yeah.
it's changed. My experience of it has changed. Because I've been experimenting this whole 5 years, on and off with different things. And
Right.
it's just, it seems like the longer I stay away from big disturbances like the four regulated principles, the like more severe the effects it has. When I because I started with like once a week I was eating meat, and then once every 2 weeks, and then once every 3 months. So I was like slowly, separating, and I could see the extreme effects of as more time gapped in between. Kind of reminds me of like when I first smoked my first cigarette, and how it was like the most disgusting thing but I did it a few more times, and then it was enjoyable. It's like, this is great. I'm like, but so, and then separating from myself from cigarettes, and then trying it again, and just like the same experience. It's like, it's just so disturbing.
Right. Because you can get conditioned to like mature condition, like, oh, this is good. And then when you like have space from it, then you realize how this is not natural. This is, when you're apart from the conditioning, then it's like, well, this is not natural. This is not a natural experience of the soul.
Yeah. Plus being like more present with myself at this point, like going through the Sabbatoh seminars, I feel like helped me like really not only get present with myself, but with others that I'm in my life. And so that's been assisting in the whole process too, because if I can't like be present for my experience of when I do things, then it's like I'm not gonna get the message that, hey, maybe this isn't working for you, so I'm appreciating that too. Just kind of looking at it, it's just been interesting going through Sabbatoh and then into Bhakti Yoga right after, kind of like this continuation through it seems so like nice. It was such a nice, like, okay, first, get in, are you present with yourself or others? Because that's important. It's like if because when you start practicing Krishna consciousness, you really want to like see the results, or at least you want to be present with the results, or it's like,
Well, it's personalism. Krishna consciousness is personal.
Oh,
like it's relating to a person. Like we're reconnecting with a person.
Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those personal relationship skills are like perfect for a particular practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. No, I appreciate that. Yeah. How when we chant the Maha Mantra, that's our direct association time with Krishna, and how committed are we to that that time that we're having with Krishna, and how present are we? What are we? What's happening for ourselves? So it's been really a nice compliment, or just like it's almost like I don't know. I just feel like for me personally, it was just like a nice transition.
It's natural.
To
It
go.
felt natural transition.
Yeah, I feel like if I was, making contact with Krishna, I would have been too much like all in my head, and my emotions would be all over the place, and I'm like,
Right.
I can't deal with that. It's like, it helped me really kind of come into like my presence and in the present moment, and like, okay, yeah, because so much of this process, and my understanding is it's so like it's just a real direct Like you do the process, you experience the results. What are the results of that? You know, and so it's just like it continues to be that way. Yeah. So it's not just like a belief. It's like it's like a direct like experience.
Experientially based.
Yeah.
Science.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Bhaktin Patrick, I just wanted to tell you that I'm pumped. I know I've expressed this before, but I wanted to share with you again that I am very supported by your enthusiasm for this process and the way that you've been showing up consistently throughout it. I'm happy that you picked this verse and that you held this class today. I think it's really present with me today. Not so much, I mean, because we had this morning class and it was about careers also. I feel like it kind of went to the career. Yeah, I feel like it's very fortunate. Like, you know, we've had 2 conversations about that today, so it's been present with me. But we had this experience this afternoon of going to Kohl's. We needed to return diapers to Amazon, and apparently you can do that at Kohl's. So we went there, and I had not been in Kohl's for like several years. And man, it was weird energy in Kohl's. Like people were wandering around, like looking at stuff that the only other place I've ever felt this kind of energy was in a gambling parlor in Atlantic City. You know, it was like very, very like, I don't know. Manic. Yeah, it was manic. It was like a manic kind of energy, the shopping energy. And I'm like, how many shoes does she need? She needs a lot of shoes, you know, like a lot of jewelry. No judgment. Maybe she needs a lot of shoes, but the feeling was not good for me. It was not a good feeling for me. And so, you know, I've been thinking about that this afternoon. Like, what is happening in Kohl's? Like, what are people doing there that feels like this weird gambling thing almost? And I don't know. So I was thinking about it as you were talking today, and I'm wondering, so we have our Sanatana Dharma, right? Our eternal Dharma, which is to serve. And then we have our material Dharma, which is our, you know, our occupation, you know, our, you know, the things that we undertake to keep our mind and our body and our soul together here on this planet. But then there's other stuff too, I think, that falls into that, like shopping for clothing and, you know, home goods and toiletries and personal items. And I think it's really easy to maybe leave that out. And I think I got an instruction today that was really important, that I know that there are other like spiritual principles about collecting too much stuff and having that be like a roadblock to our successful practice of bhakti yoga. So I'm wondering if that has occurred to you or anyone else, if that's kind of like a thread here that ties into the material dharma concept of like not collecting too much stuff, not maybe gambling with our time, you know, this idea of like, okay, how many pairs of shoes do I need? Like how many outfits do I need? How much jewelry do I need? And then what is it like if I go out and I spend a whole afternoon collecting candles at Kohl's? You know, there's a woman there who was just like sniffing all the candles. You know, needed a lot of candles. It's okay. But I'm just, you know, that's just coming up for me. Like that's gotta be is that part of our dharma? Like the collecting of things and the keeping of things in our material conditioning? Like I know that we have an occupation, but is that also not part of our fruit of work or part of our, you know, Sanatana Dharma? Like it could be either way, one of those paths, you know, you're going on the material path of trying to get pleasure out of those candles, or you're going on the, you know, the enlightenment path. Like, hey, you know, like I gave Dear Govinda some candles last year and I saw that he used them to light all of the little, yes, exactly. He used those. And I was like, wow, what a cool use for those Yankee candles. That's the first in the world who ever used those for that.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my thoughts.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yukta Vairagya, he dovetailed the Yankee candle and service to Damodar Krishna perfectly. And so I think that in executing our Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, then then we may have, service to do that may require collecting some things and using some things that, but then the idea is to not over endeavor, to over collect, to over endeavor, do what's needed, do the needful, do what's necessary, and to not get lost in that. And it sounded like when you're sharing about coals, I think I was hearing this for Gaetano too, is like, once we have a taste of our original natural consciousness, then we can really distinguish what's artificial. It really stands out what's artificial. Like if you're trying to enjoy something, it's like, well, this is not natural for a spirit soul to be doing this activity, or this is not a natural place for a spirit soul to be spending much time. I mean, you need to spend some time according to whatever your needs need to be, but to be spending hours sniffing all the candles and smelling and trying on all the things, and that's not the natural use of the time for the spirit soul. So
but Patrick, they gave us a 25% off coupon. No, I'm serious. And then it was like a moment of choice where I was like, I now have a 25% off coupon. I could spend more time in this place. And I'm like, no, I got to get out of here. This is why I shop online.
Yeah, Maya's powerful. Yeah, 25% more. Why not roll the dice again? How about another roll of the dice? Yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I want to add to that. It's not really related to the conversation, but I went to Hitchcock's the other day.
I can't hear you.
I went to Hitchcock's the other day, and I had a similar experience. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I don't know what's going on I don't know what was going on for different people that I saw, but I experienced a lot of people as like feeling really dead inside.
Yeah.
And it was like scary. And I felt so grateful to have this, like have the association of all of you and Govinda and Malini and Srila Prabhupada. And it's just it's like so much suffering and no concept that it is suffering. It's my perception. And, I don't know. Maybe these people are actually super blissful. Yeah.
Right.
It just it's like painful.
Yeah.
And then there's this feeling of like, okay, am I just gonna like sit and complain and say that it was scary and like disappear into my Sattvic world and not anything about it? It's like, no, there's a responsibility to like, let's go do, what is it that what is that thing that Nalini did at the grocery store?
Ranga bombing?
Yeah, Ranga bombing and But yeah, seriously, there's like a responsibility to like share this and not just keep it in our little sangha. It's like we get strong here so we can go out there. And yesterday I was speaking with Dear Govinda, and he was talking about the concept of the approach of in like a pin, out like a plow. Have you heard of that?
I've heard of it.
I really appreciate it. So that one approach to Krishna consciousness and spreading like Harinam Sankirtan is like we like go into some city and we're just like loud and like having a huge Sankirtan party. So it's like more like in like a plow, out like a plow. But then most of us we're like in like a pin, so we're like inconspicuous and like sprinkling Krishna consciousness in these little subtle ways. And then it has a big effect, which is exactly what the Sattva seminars are.
Right.
In like a pin, out like a plow.
Yeah.
And I feel really inspired by that because I'm endeavoring to practice Brahmacharini life, but I feel like a fake Brahmacharini because I'm not doing like all the other things. Like I'm still like far from complete surrender to Guru, and that's the essence of it, and so many other things. But I am practicing celibacy, so I have that. And what was I going to say about that? I feel a responsibility to like start doing more Sankirtan in like my own way, like in like a pin, out like a plow kind of way. And my method for that is through my social media, my marketing, which I have. It's like that's kind of what I do. That's my Svadharma is helping employ people in their dharmas, in their swadharmas, basically. That's my swadharma. And my work is a lot about marketing stuff. So I have this opportunity, I have a platform to start like sprinkle a little bit here, sprinkle a little bit there, and it can be woven into these like consciousness things that don't have anything directly to do with Krishna consciousness, but occasionally I can sprinkle it in, and it feels like a responsibility, and it's so small compared to like for example, like Ramachandra going and like direct Krishna conscious preaching and all over the world. It's like amazing. Like I don't have that courage to do that. But this is like my way of trying to step into my responsibility of having all this sattvic awareness, this sattvic medicine. And yeah, we should go Garanga bombing in Hitchcock.
Well, yeah, reminded, we offer obeisance. All the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Yes. And it's not just like, wow, those people are messed up, let me avoid that, It's like really feeling, as Prabhupada was full of, Prabhupada, heart attack is coming to Jaladuta. He wasn't just like, oh, the people in America, they're crazy, crazy demons, good thing I'm in India and went away from them. It's like, it's feeling compassion for the fallen conditioned souls and coming to rescue us. We're diseased, we're broken, we're damaged, we're, barely living. We're just like people in his class just kind of crawling out of the swamp or whatever, like trying to live, and so Prabhupada's coming to help us learn to walk and talk and breathe and live and dance and resume full activities, and that we have a responsibility to do that too in our own way, according to psychophysical nature. I mean, don't want to be bound by psychophysical nature and at the same time, we want to dovetail our gifts and unique services and talents and propensities to Krishna consciousness and to serve others and to help others. And
And I feel like I've been hiding a lot. Like everybody wants to stay on the scene away from me, and I didn't. And that's like, I had things to do for my work, and then also this hiding in there. And it's like how selfish, It's like to stay hiding with all this. I have all this sattvic juice. Like I'll spread it.
Right.
Transcendental juice. Shuddha sattva.
So let's commit to Sankirtan right here. Nobody leaves
March 15th.
until we find a date that works for everybody. And everybody's Nityananda.
Kim from England wants to do Sankirtan out in public.
Well, I will be out of town. Let's find it.
I know you will be, but still, I want to satisfy her, so I'm putting out there March 15th. Service to Kim and everything else. March 15th, sometime between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. That's the day after the graduation event. And then she'll fly out 4 days later. So really, Sunday.
There is the post training or the philosophical roots program is on the Saturday.
And then the philosophical roots graduation event next day. Holding space for her.
That'll be an ecstatic.
What day?
Bunch of us are just on
Sunday, March 15th.
Anything else?
like 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, really? All 4 of y'all going?
You want to share something?
You're gonna be napping, right?
Yeah, I was thinking about what Priya was saying.
Let's focus in with Ramachandra.
About like the beauty of having certain knowledge, like not just in Krishna consciousness, but there is like a nice example in the Bhagavatam. This group of sages that the kingdom was like on stakes, you say, like in a complete like really bad situation because of King Vena, who was really like bad like king and he was just disturbing everyone. So the Brahmanas, they were just so upset that they just left for a retreat in the forest by the river. And what happened to them actually, because they had the knowledge to help the people, but they ran away from the responsibility of helping the people, their knowledge was taken away from them. And it's like, for me, it's like the same concept of like difference between religion and belief, knowledge and the belief, or all these different things. Like if knowledge is kept segregated, closed, it becomes a belief. If if a belief becomes closed, if religion becomes closed to it, instead of being dharma, being something that embraces everything, it turns into a belief, something temporary that gives us pleasure. If it kept limited, becomes sense gratification. So yeah, like that's what inspires me to go and either distribute books or just post something on YouTube about Sankirtan. So, like I think someone commented on Rebecca, I think she commented on one of the videos that, I want to go and chat with you. I'm like, Jai, like I really, it touches me so much when someone messages me from that platform, and it happens many times that people, they see how I do the books and they just go out and they try it and they see that it works. And it's so easy, and it gives you so much joy to share what you truly love, truly believe in, and then that experience that gives you the experience of that being a knowledge, a belief by which you can act. The faith turns into something that you can experience. So that's how I connected to it.
I didn't understand what you meant about something turning into sense gratification.
Yeah, if something is temporary, if certain pleasure is anything you limit, it turns into the opposite from what the original intent was there. Like you look at all the religions, all the path, all the spiritual masters, gurus, you name it. The intent is one, to be happy, right? But as soon as it becomes limited, as soon as you need a certain limiting thing, like some people say, you need a living spiritual master to attain something. So this is a limiting thing, to think that something needs to leave or die or whatever. So it immediately transforms it into gross matter. From spiritual, you're left with the matter, with the material.
It's like if we're not sharing the holy name and kirtan, it's like we're just like, oh, let's do kirtan at home and kirtan within a little group, and if we're not sharing it, then it becomes like sense enjoyment.
I saved this one quote. I have this compilation folder with different aspects, and I have some folders that I don't really know how to name them, but in that folder I found this one quote, really interesting quote, that sometimes people who it's called karmis, the chant Hare Krishna or something like that, or materialists, the chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada describes different people that chant Hare Krishna, but what actually differs between someone who is a devotee and who is a materialist is that materialists, they do that in they sometimes chant Hare Krishna as a meditation, but they do it in privacy. And devotees, they invite others. They go out of their comfort zone to give it to people who are not necessarily even interested. Give them the option. So for me, it's like this concept of you take something good, but as soon as you limit it,
right,
you can only have one, bar of something. Ladu. Yeah. Oh, we should make bars. Then it turns to the different things. So yeah, I really I experience every time I hear someone chant Hare Krishna for the first time. It's such a bliss. Not because I didn't give him anything, but he actually he makes me attentive for that moment in the day for the holy name, because it's really captivating to hear someone what is his experience chanting for the first time, or reading his first mantra in the Bhagavad Gita, or it's kind of I don't know, maybe it's kind of like having children. I don't remember having children, but it's like this.
Seeing someone come alive to their
and
real states.
Transforming and glowing, and how Prabhupada takes him by the hand and changes his life right in front of you. Kind of maybe growing how children grow, right? So fast.
I I can
nourishes
resonate
your
with what you're
attention.
saying.
Yeah.
You resonate with that.
Yeah, like after the book event, I had all these friends saying, "I'm sorry I can't come to support you," and I was like, I don't want support from you for the book event. I just am looking forward to new people coming and hearing holy names and eating prasadam and just hearing the philosophy. And so the fact that there were new people there, like, thrilled me. And I wasn't tired at night, and I woke up really excited. And I'm just like, it's just like, I don't know how I have that like faith. I don't know why I'm like having that experience or whatever, but I'm just like thrilled to share it. And then when I was like ill at the, I don't know what happened. I felt, I was all packed up. Huh?
You told me you're gonna candidate for.
I was all packed up. Anyway, I don't want to like tell this details, but I had everything set by the door, and then I couldn't come. It wasn't possible physically. So anyway, that was really disappointing. It's like painful to not come on every time there's a harina. I'm like, I know I belong there. It's like it resonates with Dominique, the character. You know, it's like totally like comfortable, like really. So it's just, anyway, I just want to express that. Yeah.
Maybe we make one of these festival programs right now. Sunday.
So then Brielle will come. Because she's all about Brielle. She's your number one supporter for festivals.
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
We're all bowing down.
Rebecca, do you want to lead kirtan? I can be with Micah. You want to lead?
I'm coming.
Coming?
I'm coming over.
Vinny's coming.
I'm coming over in 2 minutes. I'll just drive over, okay?
You're coming over what? You coming to lead kirtan or you lead here?
Yeah, I'm coming to lead kirtan. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Okay, we'll bring you some prashadam if you'd like.
I just realized which verse we were reading.
You like didn't like click.
Well, yeah, it's like connected to particular.
Something connected to something.
I had a Megami class today.
Oh, cool.
Pass your cookies out now.
Oh, you may.
Six each.
No. Ram.
just write them off the front of it. One big sentence.
The preparation?
I was like, when I saw him, I know.
Oh, yes, thank you.